What's up, everybody? Jordan Stewart here from Vover. Thanks so much for tapping into the Vover Original Show. Just a reminder that if you want to drop your opinions about the episode or respond to the host and guests with your voice, go and download the Vover app wherever you get your apps. Vover, voice over everything. Enjoyed the show.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to this Friday edition of the Vover Sports Card Show. I am your host, Hrelja. I'm here today at the Chicago National Card Show. Absolutely amazing event. And what we need to talk about today is two-star athletes that people are overlooking cards of at this show that I think they're going to regret later on. Right now, there's tons of attention on football at the moment. We see quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady starting to get a lot of attention, which makes sense. The season is around the corner. We look at basketball. There's starting to be more attention on LeBron, Jordan, Kobe again. There's a lot of people with a lot of money looking to buy the best of the best stuff. And we even see some baseball attention happening. Ohtani continues to command high prices. We look at guys like Juan Soto starting to play well. His card prices are starting to go up a little bit. But I'm confident that there's a few players that people are really overlooking right now that I think really shouldn't be happening. And the first one is, if we're talking about baseball, who is universally regarded as the best modern baseball player ever? I think if you ask 10 people, 9 out of 10 are going to say Mike Trout. You look at Mike Trout, ever since he was 20 years old, he's been top 5 in MVP voting every single year. But we're looking at Trout this year. He had an amazing start to the season, but he's missed virtually the entire year. If you look at the reports that have happened over the last few days, there's really no great update on his return. And unfortunately, we might not be able to see a healthy Mike Trout for the rest of the season, and we may have to wait till next March. But I think if you're a long-term collector, right now it does provide an opportunity to buy Mike Trout cards, and I don't think you need to rush it. I think if Mike Trout doesn't come back, or he does come back, but it's for a short period at the end of the season and the Angels aren't going to make the playoffs, people aren't going to really pay attention, and there will be opportunity in the offseason as well. But I'm looking at Mike Trout as a player where his Topps Update rookie card PSA 10 was selling for about $5,000 when the season started, and now it's selling for about $3,000. Now, I'm not saying you have to buy that card, but understand that 40% decrease that happened with this is happening with a lot of his stuff right now. You look at his 2011 Bowman Chrome Draft Pick rookie card PSA 10, it was $2,500 at the end of April. We saw this card continue to go down over the last few months, now selling for under $1,300. And I understand why some people have been hesitant to buy some Mike Trout cards recently, not knowing when he's going to return this year, especially if you're trying to do short-term flips. But looking in the macro, Mike Trout is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He turns 30 next week. We're looking at a guy that has so much good baseball ahead of him. And what surprises me the most is his teammate Shohei Ohtani has been probably the best player in baseball this season, leading the league in home runs, must-see TV. And people don't realize that we're going to get a 4 or 5 year run right now of those two guys playing together in their primes. We've seen injuries time and time again hurt the card market of a player, but when they return and they come back to their superstar form, their markets rebound. You can look at Ohtani himself. Last summer when he got injured, his card prices started to tank, and his cards did not sell well over the offseason, and they didn't heat up until this year started, and people started realizing that we're getting the Ohtani that we all hoped for a couple seasons ago. And now you see his card market, and it's at all-time highs. You look at Mike Trout, when he comes back next season, and him and Ohtani are fighting for the MVP on the same team, how do you think that the card market is going to react? I always tell you guys that narrative is everything, and if you look at the general baseball world right now, how are they talking about Mike Trout? Nobody's saying anything negatively. They're just not talking about him because he's injured. When Mike Trout's playing and playing alongside Ohtani, we're going to hear nothing but good things. And people are going to talk about what if the Angels can actually become competitive in the postseason? And what if you have top 2 MVP guys on the same team battling it out for home run leader and best batter in baseball? It's going to be an incredible show. It's going to be the most fun team to watch in baseball for years to come. I'm just surprised that nobody's anticipating that right now. But I think for you guys, it could present an opportunity where you don't have to rush right now. You don't have to run and try to buy any card you can find at the moment. But over these next couple of weeks, I would be watching out for autos. I would be watching out for different types of rookie cards where they might fall within your budget, where 3 or 4 months ago, you would have never expected that you could have afforded the card. And moving on from baseball, I think people are overlooking players in various sports. And if we look at basketball, I think Zion Williamson might be getting overlooked more than anybody else. We're looking at a guy who at the age of 20 years old in his second season, one of the most highly regarded players coming out of college ever. And he scored 27 points per game on above 60% effective field goal shooting at the age of 20 years old. This is unprecedented stuff in the modern NBA. And we're not hearing anybody talking about it, probably because people don't love that he doesn't have a three-pointer. But guess what? Who just won the NBA Finals? Who just won the Finals MVP? Who won the MVP 2 of the last 3 seasons? Who's on pace to be a top 20 player of all time? It's Giannis. And Giannis doesn't have a great three-point shot. Giannis isn't great from the line. Giannis isn't great from mid-range. But what Giannis has is a skill, a generational skill, where he could get to the rim because he's stronger and he's more athletic than you. He's obviously taller, and he's taller than Zion, but Zion Williamson's ability to get to the rim and go downhill is genuinely unguardable. We look at the second half of the season, because if you just look early on, Pelicans weren't giving him enough touches. First 20 games of the season or so, Zion was averaging about 20 points per game because he wasn't getting shots. They weren't looking for him. All of his points were scored off of broken plays and putbacks. But during the second half of the season, every single month, Zion Williamson handled the ball more and more and brought the ball up court. And we saw Zion Williamson average 30 points per game over the second half of the season on above 60% shooting. The efficiency people don't understand. Zion Williamson puts the ball in the basket at a higher rate than most people. And if you look at effective field goal shooting, it takes into account people shooting three-pointers, and Zion Williamson's percentage is still higher. So the argument that Zion Williamson isn't a great asset in the modern NBA is just wrong. If you're asking me personally, I believe he's lived up to every expectation so far put upon him. The Pelicans have been awful as a team organizationally. Zion's had 2 coaches in 2 years. They've done a really poor job of putting the right pieces around him. And it's created a situation where I believe that there's true opportunity in his car market, because I think when next season comes around, people are going to realize that Zion is a superstar. Zion isn't just a young guy like John Morant. I believe he's on a level above that. And if you look at something like his optic-based rookie card, PSA 10, selling for $130 right now, that card has been 2.5 times that price before. That was a $300 plus card heading into last season. Now, I understand the pops are high, the pops are going up, but at some point for a main flagship PSA 10 rookie card of one of the best young players in the NBA, it becomes a good buy. And I think if you don't have a high budget, I think there's tons of different options for you to be able to grab Zion cards right now. And if you do have a bigger budget, I think that there's some really cool plays that you could be making. His Select Courtside Gold Disco Prism number to 10, PSA 10, just sold for $9,700 just a couple days ago. We look at something like his Zebra Select rookie card PSA 10, one of the most coveted parallels, just sold for $5,100. His Flawless RPA number to 25 at a BGS 9.5 slab, just sold for $25,100. I'm not trying to say Zion cards are cheap, and the more expensive you go, the more people appreciate it. We look at his NT, his Flawless, his Immaculate. They aren't at all-time highs right now, but they are still being respected by investors. But if we look at lower-end stuff, people are refusing to touch his cards, and I do think that they get to a point where they're actually valuable to buy. I'm not saying just only buy base cards in volume, because generally those cards aren't the most fun to collect, they're not eye-appealing, and they're not rare cards. But if you have a low budget and you're getting started out, I think there's some plays that you can be making with Zion right now where you can ride the hype wave into the season. When we get to the season starting up and people realize what Zion did last year, and there's momentum with the Pelicans hoping that they can rebound with a new coach and a new system, I think you're going to be able to flip Zion cards before he even steps on the court. And when he does start playing, I wouldn't feel pressure to sell his cards immediately like some other guys, because I do think that he has the ability to show people that he's a genuine superstar now and not a rising prospect. Zion Williamson is a one-of-one athlete. We have never seen a guy built like him. Someone who's 6'6", 6'7", but weighs nearly 300 pounds and can jump 45 inches off the ground and have that much power. And nobody likes to talk about this, but he has incredible basketball instincts and feel. His second jump is the best we've possibly ever seen in basketball. And I think his field goal percentage speaks for itself, where he's a really efficient basketball player. You're not feeding Zion the ball and he's taking 30 shots to get you 30 points. No, Zion is going to take 13 shots and go 10 for 13. We saw some momentum happen with Zion's high-end market during the second half of the season when people were really realizing how great he was playing, but the overall hype around him has toned down, especially with football around the corner. I think once football season gets into full effect and people lose the FOMO aspect around it, I think people are going to start angling towards basketball when the season starts up, and I think Zion Williamson is going to be getting more attention than he is today. So I appreciate you listening to this Friday edition of the Vover Sports Card Show. I am your host, Frank Hrelja, and I'll be back again on Monday.
Vover